Welcome to our YouTube channel. We're here today to talk about the lack of data to monitor the effect of agricultural and veterinary chemicals on the human population. A new report commissioned by the Department of Agriculture has found that the federal government does not have a suitable source for this kind of data. What does this mean? As it turns out, data on pesticides in the environment is only available locally, amounting to a snapshot in time. What's worse, government entities such as workplace health and safety regulators and public health authorities don't have access to useful information about human exposure to ag-vet chemicals. Agricultural and veterinary chemicals are used to protect crops, livestock, and domestic animals, weed and pest control, and meet consumer needs. But the report shows that in Australia, at least, we lack basic data to assess the effect of these chemicals on the environment and human health. The only study on human biomonitoring to be found dates back to 2005, and there are no national sources of data on pesticides in groundwater, urban stormwater, drinking water, soil, or in wildlife. The only long-term monitoring of pesticides in the environment exists in relation to the barrier reef, which is limited to just 22 pesticides. Monitoring of pesticides in food is at least slightly better, due to the long-running National Residue Survey for Exported Meat and the Total Diet Survey, which screens for pesticides. However, data collected by fresh food markets, supermarkets, and other vendors remains confidential. This is in stark contrast to other countries, such as the Netherlands, the UK, and the US, which report publicly each year on pesticides in food. Consumer advocate group National Toxics Network, as well as associate researcher Matt Landos from the University of Sydney, have noted the lack of data on the impact of using pesticides makes it nearly impossible to perform risk assessments and reviews of ag-vet products, leaving the pesticides regulator relying on guesswork when it comes to product approval. Finally, while it unfortunately remains impossible to compare the exact status of Australia in relation to pesticide use with other countries globally, it's worth noting that the European Environment Agency released a report last week citing widespread use of pesticide as a major source of environmental contamination and linked to chronic illness. At the very least, this report marks a beginning, as the Department of Agriculture is considering it and will comment on it in the coming months. As for what kind of changes this lack of data could bring about, well, only time will tell.